So you want to make a diorama. You landed on this video. I'm going to show you that it's not hard to make a diorama with some basic supplies, a few things you might have to buy at the store. And I have a video for that. It should be uploaded before this one with a list of your basic supplies. My name is Rob, 47 years old. Just started doing this YouTube thing. Been doing dioramas for years. I had to do an intro for it because I had to cut a bunch of stuff out to make it shorter. It's going to be a short series. Part one is going to be building the structure. Part two will be painting. Part three will keep progressing, getting a little bit more detail and a little bit harder stages, more intermediate and advanced stages. It is a cringe video. I admit it. I know it. I'm new to this. I'm still learning. I am trying to make the area more presentable behind me. This is my workshop, so it is what it is. I appreciate anyone stopping by and watching this. Stay tuned and let me know in the comments what else you want to see and what you do and don't like about it. But you could do it too, anywhere with basic things. And it's a lot of fun. All right. Thank you. Coffee. So you want to learn how to make a diorama. Last time I said I would do a simple build of this. So I'm assuming you ran out to the store, you bought some styrofoam, and you want to learn how to do this. So we're going to go through it. A lot of this will probably be time lapse because it is time consuming, but I'm going to work my best. So you got your styrofoam, you cut it down into some chunks that you might want to use. These are scrap pieces I had. So you want to make the street and the wall. I'm going to mark it out. I'm actually going to keep this small one, small cutting mat that I mentioned in the previous video. So when you're cutting through this, you're going to put the blade at the corner and just drag it through. That's it. Broke off. So now you have two pieces here that you can use to start making something. Street, wall. We'll start with the easy thing, and I will start with the bricks. For this, I'm going to do 1 millimeter. It's basically 10 millimeters tall for each brick to get a little bit larger scale. And when you cut your piece, depending on the size you want to make it, this one I lucked out because it's actually 11 millimeters tall. So it's 11 bricks heights tall. When you're cutting it out, just think of that, whatever height you want to make it, for whatever scale you want to make it. Now, once you get comfortable with this, you don't have to mark these lines out with a pen, especially these lines because they're straight. You can just come through with the blade and start scoring it right from the beginning. Well, I hope everyone's having a great day. I hope I'm able to teach someone something from this video. I'm actually happy to have you here on watching this with me. I honestly would like to do some live streams and just do this with, people on here. The only problem with a live stream is we can't talk. Like I wish there was a room that you could actually talk and we could have a conversation, like Teams or, something like that. And while I'm sitting here working, I could talk because I don't want to read comments while I'm trying to work and teach something. Because it's nice to, be able to just work and talk. And if you have a question, you can just ask it, and I could stop and show something over again. You guys can tell me whether or not these camera angles are working well or not. And the reason I'm not doing this a specific scale is to show you that you don't need to. If you're just trying to make something for fun, make it for fun. So now since I made these 10 millimeters tall, I'm gonna make them 20 millimeters wide. So I like to start on the bottom. Which I really don't have a bottom. I'm gonna use this as the bottom. I like to start at the bottom because it's easier. So now you're gonna do these in doubles. So double that. So 10, 20. And this is where you could use a square. You put the square across the top, you could just run these lines. You could just run these lines down. You take your square, you can mark it. Boom. There you have every other for the bricks. But we're not going to do that because I'm trying to use the basic, most basic tools. So we're gonna come back up top. So you don't need the tools to make the project. The tools just make the project go quicker when it comes to certain things. They're always not more helpful. They can be confusing. It could just be something that you're just not familiar with using. So every other brick, because when they stack a brick wall, they stagger the bricks. Oh, and I wanted to put a topper on this. I meant to cut off a layer. So we're actually going to do that. I want to make this wall a little bit shorter so that we can use the top piece as like a stone topper like I did on this one. And if you did happen to go to the store and buy two different thicknesses, this would be a great time to use that because you could use the thinner piece for this wall. This is the 1 inch piece, thick piece. This is the piece that I purchased and it was a 2 by 2 square and I cut it down into, manageable sizes or whatever else I used it for. But if you did get the two different thicknesses, you could use them now. Save a little bit of trouble. See what I'm doing there? Obviously, I don't want to hang this here and measure and mark my line, so I just turn it around. Just make sure you do the same thing, every other. And this is for a brick pattern. Stone pattern, you can do the same thing and then just add some extra details. As far as getting the middle, you could do this two ways. You could actually measure it out. So now you know this brick is 2 millimeters, so the middle one's going to be 1 millimeter to be right in the middle, three, five, and so on. And you can do the same thing. Remember, you got to go every other, or you could just go with it. Because believe it or not, freehanding like this sometimes just adds a little bit more character because although brick walls might seem like they're perfectly aligned all the time, and some may be, depending on the craftsmanship or the craftsman person that was building it, it could be damn near exact. But you get that guy that it was, Friday before the weekend, he's trying to hurry, and you get some of these, kind of off center, not perfectly center lines. Again, you don't have to do this at this point. This you could actually come through with the knife and just go through and make these lines. You don't have to mark them. I'm marking them for my own reason, just to kind of do it and just so you can see both ways of doing it. So now I said I wanted to cut off a layer. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come back through here, line this up. We already got a line. This row was slightly, I think, smaller than the rest anyways. And it looks like it might be an optical illusion, but it looks like it might be curved. When you're slicing through it like this, you're not putting huge amounts of pressure down. You're literally just pulling the knife and just dragging it through. And the weight of the knife will eventually cut it all the way through. So now we got a topper piece that we can use up top. It's not perfect. I wish it went over a little. I mean, I could always, improvise and do something, but I'm just going to trim it off of that for now. So now we came through, we did these lines. If you want to see the lines, you take your pen and you start opening up those lines. And I typically like to make these lines, the horizontal lines first, the long straight lines, and then come through. This is where I would use the X-Acto knife instead of this knife. And you could use this knife and cut through. It's going to do the same thing. Literally works the exact same. Might not want it out as much, just a little bit. You come through. So see, you don't need the X-Acto knife for this. As long as the blade is sharp, it's like tracing a drawing. Just follow the lines. Just watch you don't cut into the next one. And if you do, no big deal. Because you know what? It's a crack in the brick. Because you know what? Bricks and walls do that. They have cracks, they have details. If it gets snagged, if it's caught, you'll feel it restrained. You're not putting a lot of pressure. It does, just work it up and down, cut through so you don't yank it and then, accidentally cut through the whole thing. Basically, what I'm doing is this. That's it. That's all I'm doing. Lost what row I was on. When you're doing a larger scale like this, it goes a lot quicker because you're making less cuts and less lines. When you start getting into the smaller scales, train scales, your HO, your N, your O's, that stuff, when you're getting into like your 124 scale, it takes a little bit longer because you're making everything smaller. A brick wall like this is going to take probably the same amount of time this took, and it's smaller. And in all honesty, it's probably going to take a little bit longer because it's a little bit smaller. So as we're going through this, I will be fast forwarding through a lot of this when I'm not talking, as to not bore you. But as we progress, and you're watching this, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll be more than happy to answer them. If it's a specific question that I see a lot of people asking, I'll put a video up about it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Styrofoam, mark it, cut it. We move on to the next part. For the street, this is where you could take two pieces of styrofoam and create the levels. But I'll show you what I did with that one. That's it. Come through with the pen. You open up those lines just enough to get some detail in there. I hope you could see that. See how these 4 rows or these 5 rows? You can see that stands out a lot more than these up here. You're bringing out that texture, that definition. All right, so they're all widened up a bit. So now here's the little insider secret. If you notice, depends on how well you look at it, you might notice that some of the, when you're making the lines, it kind of pulls the styrofoam. So what I actually like to do is I actually like to round it. So when I was going through, I didn't do it because I wanted to come back and do it. But I come in with the pen, and if it breaks a piece, I pull it out. Because again, that's just adding more detail to it. If it breaks and you don't like it, you could push it back in there. There's ways to kind of like fix it in when you put paint on. You probably wouldn't even notice it's there. But I like making these rounders. See, I slipped with the pen. I made that little U there. No big deal. It's just added character. When you paint it, it adds texture and it'll look good. Basically, you do a circle around each brick. And it's easier to do this when you're doing it through the first time. Well, it's time consuming if you got to go back and do it. If you do it the first time when you're going through, it just goes quicker. But like I said, I wanted to show those things and I didn't want to stop and talk about it until I actually showed a clean version of it. You come through with your knife, break off some pieces, add some scratches. This is where I would use the aluminum foil. So now you have your brick all laid out. Get a bigger piece. I don't know why I have this tiny piece, but take it, put it down, your hand, rub it around. Texture starts coming out. So for the simple build, I'm not gonna fill in the cracks because with mortar, because that's going to the next level. That would be more of an intermediate. This is a beginner one. I don't want you to need to buy a bunch of stuff, but that's it. Add some detail to the sides if you're gonna be displaying it from the side. This is a half brick, so this would be a full brick. This is a full brick, so this would be a half brick. There you go. You got your line started, and now you know it's every other one. I'm through with the pen. Those edges off for character. Round those bricks out while you're going through. And do the other side. You don't have to do this. If it's something if you're gonna be like on a shelf, it might bother you later on looking at it, being like, ooh, I should have did the sides. And you know what? You don't even have to do it now. You could actually set it up where you want to set it up. You look at it from the side and you're like, oh my God, the sides are, I wish I'd done the sides. Go back and do it. Get your knife, pull it out, get your clay tool or pen, be it full of ink or not, widen your line, come back with your paint, paint it, put it back, and enjoy your piece. That's it. Same thing. Add some texture to it. If you want, and some broken bricks on the side. I mean, styrofoam. Just come in with your nail and break off some pieces. And you don't have to do. I mean, you come through with the pen, pull the pieces out. What I like to do is take the pen, let me push some of the bricks in, push one side of the brick in, come through. Make sure you got a gap. You want to get really creative, you take the knife, gently come in behind the brick, and try to get it to come out a little bit. Make it stick out. Take your finger, push it in. It's not, have fun with it. Try new things. Grab your pencil. Just look at that. Add a little different texture to it. You're trying to make a scene for like a comic book thing. Come through with something. Yeah, bullet holes, whatever. I'm gonna pause that right there. I think I got a package delivery. I'll go check on that. I'll be right back. All right, so I think I lost some of the overhead view when I went to go check on a package. I noticed that this other camera only records 20-minute clips and then it stops. So let's get into the street. So the street, what I did is you have two options. If you have a scrap piece, you can glue it on there. Now you have your street, your sidewalk, and your wall. I would recommend if you had the thinner sheet or if you could trim this down, you could do that. But what I did for this one is I just cut down into it. I'll get a basic measurement, no exacts. This one I'll actually use inches. I'm gonna go, I think 2.5 inches from the wall, which ends up being 3.5 inches. We're gonna mark that out. So you're gonna have the wall, sidewalk, street. Come through, score this down. I'm not even using the ruler. I'm just using my judgment to kind of just go through. I'll come back this way and then do it two ways. I mean, you can just keep scoring until you get through. Use judgment again for height. Since this is deeper and I don't want to have to cut this far, I think I will. I'm just going to go down about a quarter inch. I'm just going to drag that through. And I'm going to cut off a piece. A little easier. Obviously, a little off kilter here. And I'm just getting down and dirty right now. I mean, it goes to show you, none of this has to be perfect. Get creative. There you go. Now you got your street. No streets are perfect. You're gonna measure this at 9 inches. So we're gonna do 3 inch blocks here. Now you have your sidewalk lines. What you could do with this though, is if you come through with your blade, finally come through with an angle. I know sidewalks are more squared off. I just want to show you that how easy it is with the knife and the styrofoam, how to make the smaller, I just add some details to it. Now this is the sidewalk, but it's not carved into the little square. It's like the bricks. So what do we do? You got to add some texture to that sidewalk. And it depends on where you are in the sidewalks. Sidewalks actually tend to have like more of a brushed concrete look, which is where they pour the concrete, they take a push broom, they drag it across the surface, and it gives it those lines to get like actual more grip when people are walking. And you could do that too. And you have two ways to do that. You could do it the tedious way and take the knife and just come through and make a bunch of little lines the whole way. Or you can get like a a stiff bristle brush, and you can just comb it the direction you want the lines to go. So there you go. I'm gonna plug my hot glue gun in. No, I'm not. So we need to paint it. So I'm not happy with that out that way. I should have had to keep the knife straighter. All right, so I did the intro. I'm now doing the outro. Hope you enjoyed the video. I try to cut out any long pauses to make it as short as possible. I have a difficult time taking an hour video and turning it into something short enough that people enjoy watching. I know people's attention span, including my own, is only limited. As I get better at recording this stuff and editing it and putting it up and speaking in English properly, we will hopefully start seeing some better quality stuff. I am trying to keep it as short as possible for enjoyment, but I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know. Again, I said it at the beginning, I'll say it again now. Let me know in the comments if there's certain parts of the video that you want more details on, if there's certain effects or processes that you want more details on. I will be more than happy to share. I'm trying to do these videos in a way that others don't, where I actually show you the whole thing without editing any of the stages out. I will fast forward through the stages if it's the same thing over and over again, but I will not cut it out. I will leave everything in and just try to shorten it up as best as I can so you can enjoy it. Again, thank you for stopping by. Appreciate those likes, appreciate those subscribes. Appreciate you all. Stay tuned for part two of this little diorama street wall, whatever we're calling it, section. All right, thank you.